Hi Seagull class, here's our read-aloud of Legends of the Seminoles, as told by Betty Mae Jumper and illustrated by Guy LaBree. This first short story is called The Hunter and the Beautiful Girl. Here's the illustration. You should never camp around a graveyard. Where people are buried, you stay away, so that the people who are buried will stay there. After 4 months, the older kin will go back to the burial site to see, and after that they never go back. That was the belief of the Seminoles. In most villages, the men were the ones who went out to hunt to supply their families with meat. One day, a man from one village told his family he thought it was time to go and find meat. "I'll be back soon if I kill a deer on the first day, but if not, I'll return either in 3 days or 4. They lived near a river, so he rowed out in a canoe. He went many miles so that he could find deer. This was an area where no one else had gone to hunt. It was almost sundown, so he docked his canoe, made camp, then went to sleep. Early the next morning, he set out again. He came upon some deer grazing, and of course, he aimed at the largest one and killed it. The deer was too large to carry, so he skinned and cleaned it right there. As he cut up the meat, he hung some up to dry. This made even less weight to carry. What he didn't dry, he barbecued right then. What he couldn't finish, he left for the animals to eat. He had noticed some raccoons waiting for leftovers. It was sunset by the time he reached camp. There he hung the meat high in a tree so the animals couldn't reach it while he slept. He built a large fire, cooked, ate, and went to sleep. As the hunter was dozing off to sleep, he felt as if someone walked towards the fire and then sat down. He peeked out from under the blanket and saw a beautiful girl sitting there. She was all dressed up with beads around her neck, as if she was going to a dance or a wedding. He wondered where she might have come from. Was there a camp nearby? She began to speak. "Hungry, hungry," she repeated. The man had a long, sharp stick that he carried with him all the time. With this stick, he speared some meat and gave it to the girl. He watched as she ate and noticed how hungry she had been. After a while, she got up and left, without saying a word. She later returned, waking him by repeating the same old thing. It was almost sunrise. In the meanwhile, the man kept the fire going, as he had become afraid of her. Finally, the sun rose and she left. He said to himself, "I'm going to follow her and find out where she's coming from." And about 500 feet or so, he came upon a bush that had meat hanging from it. This was all the meat that he had given her earlier. As he looked around, he noticed more. On some logs were beads, bones, pots and pans that must belong to her. And there she was. "Oh, you," he said to her, "I thought you had eaten all the meat I had given you. Instead, you've wasted all my food." He then turned around and burned the bush that held all the meat. He returned to his camp and then headed back for home. So whenever anyone goes out hunting in the Everglades, they make sure, before making camp, that no one or nothing is around. For there are many graves scattered in the Everglades. The Indians never bury their dead all together. Instead, they lay their loved ones wherever they see fit. What do you think? Was she a real girl or was she a ghost? This next story is called Little Frog. Here's the illustration. Look at this leaf. Does it have parallel or reticulate veins? Can you tell? When I think of my childhood, I remember that the nighttime was filled with the constant noise of frogs. The Seminoles believed the little tree frogs could tell you when it was going to rain. Now I live in the city, on the Hollywood reservation, and I don't hear them at all. This story was told to me by my grandmother when I was just a baby. Where we lived, the sounds in the woods were very important to us. We were always asking, "What is that sound from?" A lot of times we were answered with a story, such as this one. The little green frog was sitting on the edge of the water lilies, sleeping away. A big old rabbit came hopping along and came upon the frog and said, "Hi there. Why are you sleeping? It's too pretty of a day to sleep. Wake up, wake up." "I don't have to do anything," said the irritated little frog. But that big old pesky rabbit kept it up until the little frog got really mad and told him, "I'll fix you up." So the little frog started singing his funny little song, or the noise that he makes to call the rain. Within a few minutes, the black cloud came and the wind started blowing. Then the rains came and soaked the old rabbit so much he got cold and ran home. Whenever you hear the frog singing away, better be near shelter because they are warning you that rain is coming soon. Well, that's very helpful. To know when the frogs are singing, it's because it will rain soon. This next story is called Little People. This one is also very short, like the last one. But it has another beautiful illustration. Little People. The older people used to tell us the little people were in the Everglades and on the trees outside of camp. Later on, the 7 dwarfs reminded me of the little people, except there were 1,000 little people, and they would all gang up and beat you. They used to scare us, "Don't go out there by yourself, or you might see the little people." When you get very sick, the little people appear at your bedside. No one but the sick person can see them. They live in the holes of big trees. Thunder always chases and tries to kill them, but they run and disappear into their holes. This is the reason why you'll see lightning strike trees. The lightning will go around and around trying to get the little people, and that is why there are so many holes in the trees. The older people will tell you never to stand under or against trees when there is lightning, or you might get hit. Well, that is true, because lightning always strikes whatever is tallest. That was a very short story. This next one is How Little Dog Came to Be. Oh, and there's a really cute illustration. What do you think that man is saying to his dog? How Little Dog Came to Be. I love dogs. I was raised with chickens, cranes, and dogs. I had one dog I'll never forget. Her name was Jeep. She was just a plain old dog, black and white, but my mother had trained her. If I strayed too far from camp, Jeep would grab my dress and drag me back home. I've had dogs ever since. They are a comfort for me. I talk to them, and they never answer me back. Once upon a time, there lived a family out in the Everglades. They had 2 kids and a little black and white dog who always barked at everything people were doing. In those days, there was only one language spoken, so everyone spoke and understood each other. Even the little dog, who walked and carried himself just like a man. Many times the father would go off and not return until late at night, so the mother told the little dog to follow the father and let her know where he went and what he did. I want to know what all of this walking business is about, she said. Well, one late afternoon, Father said, "Oh, well, I think I'll go for a walk." And away he went toward a trail that led around a big forest. The little puppy followed him, but stayed a ways back so as not to be seen. They walked and walked until they came upon another village. There, the father went and sat down and started talking with a girl who lived there with her family. The little dog saw all of this and hurried home to tell the wife what he had seen. The wife was waiting up when the father returned. "So," said the wife, "did you have a nice long walk? What kind of skirt did you meet up with? Was it a deerskin skirt or a bearskin skirt?" But she got no reply out of him. Father knew she couldn't have followed him, as he kept looking back to make sure that no one was behind him. Then he looked at the little puppy and realized it must have been him. So he picked up the little dog and placed him on a log. And there he sat and talked with the dog. "I know it was you. So you know what I'm going to do? After today, you will never talk again. You will only smile and wag your tail. And you will walk on 4 legs, as I am folding your paws." The father was also a great medicine man, so he was able to do these things. And that is the reason why dogs all walk on all 4s and can only wag their tails when they meet you. What a funny little story. This next story is a little bit longer, so we'll read it on another day. But it's called The Little Turtle and the Wolf. So I'll let you look at the illustration and maybe you can think of your own story that could go with this illustration. Isn't that fun to do?